There is no ocean visible from the processing floor, no horizon, no salt spray, just stainless steel, running water, and weight. Millions of pounds of Pacific seafood move through facilities like this every week, most of it gone before the public notices it arrived. The vessels left Alaskan waters days ago. But by the time they reach the dock, the fish has already been iced, sorted, and logged. The processing network is not waiting. It has been running since before the boats returned. The West Coast Seafood Processing Network handles an estimated 2 to 4 million pounds of Pacific species every week. Salmon, on halibut, cod, crab, and tuna moving through a connected system of vessels, docks, and plants. This video follows that system from the point of harvest to the point of shipment. If you want to understand how industrial seafood moves at scale, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. It helps document systems like this one. And tell us in the comments, have you ever worked in a processing facility or on a harvest vessel? What part of this system surprised you most? The trucks have already left the dock, and the network is already filling again. At 3:20 a.m., the first vessel ties off at the processing dock in Astoria, Oregon. The captain logs the catch weight before the gangway is extended. Pacific cod, 14,000 pounds. The offload begins in the dark. Pacific cod, Chinook salmon, Pacific halibut, Dungeness crab, and Albacore tuna form the core species of the West Coast Harvest Network. Each moves through the system on a different timeline, under different temperature requirements, handled by different equipment. Onboard sorting begins during the return transit. Crew members separate species by hand, moving fish from the holding tank into wooden or polyurethane totes. Each tote gets a weight and species tag before it leaves the vessel. Refrigerated seawater systems keep the hold temperature between 32 and 34 degrees Fahrenheit throughout transit. Below the waterline, the fish is already on the clock. Every hour of delay compresses the processing window at the facility. Transit from the fishing grounds off the Washington and Oregon coast to the processing docks can take between 18 and 48 hours, depending on weather and vessel position. The cold chain is active the entire time. Astoria, Newport, and Seattle are primary offload points for the West Coast Processing Network. Vessels radio ahead. Dock crews prepare vacuum pump offload systems, ice bins, and receiving scales before the boat reaches the slip. Dockside offloading uses vacuum pump systems to move whole fish from the vessel hold to the receiving area without manual lifting of full bins. Flow rate reaches up to 300 pounds per minute on modern Pacific Northwest dock operations. Federal inspectors from NOAA Fisheries and state fish and wildlife agencies conduct dockside species verification. Catch documentation must match the vessel's logbook before any fish can leave the dock. This is not optional. It is the entry point of the supply chain. Species grading begins immediately after weight verification. So Pacific cod, sablefish, and rockfish are separated by species code. Salmon are sorted by run type. Chinook, coho, sockeye. Each category routes to a different processing line inside the plant. Size grading follows species separation. Some whole salmon are lifted and placed on mechanical scales, sorted into small, medium, large, and jumbo categories. Halibut are measured by length. Grade determines price, and price determines which buyer's contract the batch fills. Quality inspection is sensory and structural. So inspectors check eye clarity, gill color, flesh firmness, and odor. Fish that fail the grade threshold are diverted to reduction, not discarded, but redirected into the byproduct processing chain. Whole fish destined for fresh market sale are packed immediately in slush ice, a mixture of water and crushed ice maintained at 32 degrees. The packing ratio is 1 part ice to 1 part fish by weight. Temperature is logged at packing. So cold storage rooms adjacent to the dock hold fish for a maximum window of 24 to 48 hours before processing or live haul transport. Room temperature is held at 31 degrees. The doors open and close on a strict access schedule to prevent thermal fluctuation. While refrigerated trucks move product from dockside cold storage to processing facilities within a 30 to 60 mile radius. Some facilities are plant integrated with the dock. Others receive daily truck deliveries timed to match shift start on the processing floor. At the processing facility, the receiving dock operates as a second verification point. As inbound loads are weighed, temperature probed, and matched against the dock invoice. Any load showing thermal deviation above 38 degrees is flagged and segregated for review. The processing floor is organized by flow, not by space. Fish enter at one end, move through sequential stations, heading, gutting, filleting, skinning, and exit as portioned or whole-dressed product at the other. Water flows continuously in the opposite direction. Water usage in a West Coast processing facility runs between 15 and 30 gallons per 100 pounds of fish processed. Sanitation water, transport water, and product rinse water are managed through separate drains and treated before discharge. The plant's water system runs parallel to its production system. The filleting lines for salmon operate at speeds between 12 and 24 fish per minute on modern West Coast processing equipment. Each fillet is cut, trimmed for pin bones, and assessed for yield before moving to the next station. Line speed is calibrated to the size class entering that shift. Both skinning machines handle the removal of skin from fillets in a single mechanical pass. The fillet is fed skin side down onto a roller blade that separates skin from flesh cleanly. Yield loss at this stage is tracked per shift and measured against species average. Portion cutting is calibrated by customer specification. The restaurant and retail buyers set portion weights, typically 6, 8, or 10-ounce cuts. Automated portioning saws use vision-guided systems to minimize trim waste while hitting target weights within 2% tolerance. Trim yield. The percentage of the original whole fish weight recovered as saleable fillet typically runs between 40 and 50% for Pacific salmon. The remaining 50 to 60% becomes the raw material for the byproduct processing line running adjacent to the main floor. Quality assurance on the processing floor operates on a sampling system. Every 30 minutes, a line supervisor pulls a random sample from the moving product and checks thickness, weight, skin removal quality, and trim consistency. Deviations trigger a line hold. Dungeness crab processing runs on a separate line. Live crab arrive in aerated seawater tanks from the dock. They are cooked in steam kettles at 212 degrees, then cooled rapidly in a freshwater rinse, cracked and picked by hand. A labor-intensive operation requiring skilled line workers. Pacific shrimp, primarily ocean pink shrimp from Oregon and Washington, are processed in small-bodied, high-volume operations. Automated peeling and deveining machines handle up to 800 pounds per hour. Shrimp are graded by count per pound and sized for retail bag or food service bulk pack. Albacore tuna processing follows a distinct track. Whole tuna are loined, the 4 loins separated from the backbone by hand, then individually quick frozen before packaging. Some albacore is routed to canning lines where it is pressure cooked in sealed cans, a process that has run on the West Coast since the early 20th century. Individual quick freezing, IQF, is the primary method for freezing portioned seafood on the West Coast. Product passes through a cryogenic tunnel where temperatures drop to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit within minutes. Each piece freezes individually, not in a block, preserving texture and allowing single-piece separation at retail. Blast freezing handles whole fish and large format product, full salmon sides, loins, or club packs. Product is loaded onto metal racks. Moved into blast cells where air circulates at minus 30 to minus 40 degrees and held for 2 to 4 hours until core temperature reaches target. Packaging lines are calibrated to the product type and destination market. Retail packs use vacuum-sealed polyfilm trays or resealable pouches with printed labels. Some food service product goes into bulk polybags sealed and boxed in 20 or 50-pound master cartons. Every pack receives a production date, lot number, and origin code. Traceability is built into the packaging system. Each master carton carries a lot code traceable to the vessel, trip date, or area and species. In the event of a safety recall, the code allows the facility to pull product back to a specific harvest batch within hours. HACCP, Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points, is the regulatory framework that governs the processing floor. Some facilities operating under FDA and NOAA oversight maintain documented control points at receiving, processing, packing, and cold storage with written verification logs reviewed at every shift change. The finished product moves from the packaging line into cold storage warehouses held at 0 degrees Fahrenheit for frozen product and 32 to 34 degrees for fresh chilled. The warehouse operates on first-in, first-out rotation enforced by pallet lot coding and floor position mapping. Sea export operations at West Coast facilities are oriented primarily toward Asia-Pacific markets, Japan, South Korea, China, and Taiwan. Premium whole salmon and halibut account for a significant share of export volume. Buyers in Tokyo's Tsukiji successor market specify species, sessy grade, and pack format at the purchase order stage months before the fish arrives at port. Export containers are loaded at dock facilities adjacent to the processing plant or trucked to the port of Seattle, Tacoma, or Los Angeles. Refrigerated containers, reefers, maintain minus 18 degrees Celsius for frozen seafood. Container temperature is monitored remotely throughout transit, including ocean crossing. Reefer container management is a precision operation. Units are pre-cooled to target temperature before loading. Humidity is controlled to prevent dehydration of frozen product during transit. Temperature logging hardware inside the container creates a continuous record across the full ocean voyage. The Port of Seattle and the Port of Tacoma together rank among the top export points for Pacific seafood on the West Coast. Combined, they handle a significant volume of frozen and fresh chilled seafood bound for Asian markets every year, processed from catches landed across Washington, Oregon, and Alaska. Domestic distribution of West Coast seafood moves primarily by refrigerated truck. So long-haul carriers operate temperature-controlled trailers preset to 34 degrees for fresh product and 0 degrees for frozen. Delivery windows to regional distribution centers are typically 24 to 72 hours from plant departure. Rail is used for longer domestic routes from the Pacific Northwest to Midwest and East Coast distribution hubs. Refrigerated railcars running on BNSF and Union Pacific freight corridors carry bulk frozen seafood pallets. Transit time from Seattle to Chicago runs approximately 4 to 5 days under temperature monitoring. At regional distribution centers, inbound pallets are temperature logged on arrival and placed in zone-specific storage areas by product type and customer allocation. Orders are picked, repalletized, and staged for last-mile delivery to retail chains, restaurant groups, and food service distributors. Retail arrival is the last measurable point in the cold chain. Product is delivered to grocery distribution centers or directly to store receiving docks. The seafood case manager checks core temperature on arrival. If the product clears, it moves to the display case within hours of the delivery truck's departure. The byproduct stream from West Coast processing is substantial. Fish heads, frames, viscera, and skin from salmon and halibut processing are collected separately from the main floor. This material does not go to waste. It enters a parallel processing pathway beginning with collection in sealed, refrigerated bins. Fish meal production begins with the cooked and pressed byproduct material. After moisture is expelled through press and drying operations, the remaining protein-dense meal is ground into powder. A West Coast fish meal is used primarily in aquaculture feed, Pacific salmon farming and shrimp pond operations, and in domestic poultry production. Fish oil is a co-product of the meal rendering process. The liquid pressed from the cooked byproduct material is separated, clarified, and refined into crude fish oil. West Coast crude fish oil is sold primarily to omega-3 supplement manufacturers and to aquaculture feed formulators who blend it into pellet diets for farmed salmon. Wastewater from processing operations is treated on-site before discharge into municipal systems. Dissolved solids. Fats and organic material are removed through screen filtration, dissolved air flotation, and biological treatment stages. Regulatory permits require facilities to test and document effluent quality on a scheduled basis. A West Coast processing facility runs on rotating shifts, typically 2 10-hour shifts per day during peak season, with a sanitization break between each shift. The line may run 6 or 7 days a week when landings are heavy. Crew size on the main floor ranges between 40 and over 100 workers depending on facility scale. Federal oversight of West Coast seafood processing involves NOAA Fisheries for species compliance, the FDA for food safety and labeling, and OSHA for worker safety standards. State agencies in Washington, Oregon, and California add a second layer of inspection. Facilities that export must also meet importing country standards, verified through USDC inspection and certification. In a single operational week, this network, the vessels, docks, processing lines, cold storage rooms, and transport corridors of the West Coast, moves between 2 and 4 million pounds of Pacific seafood from water to market. Every pound is documented. Every link in the chain is temperature monitored. The system does not pause. The product is boxed, the containers are sealed, the trucks are leaving the dock. And on the water outside, on the harbors at Astoria, Newport, and Seattle, the surface has gone quiet. The next vessel is already en route. The system is already filling again. Under this video, there's a subscribe button. It's a small action, but it helps document how water becomes food at scale. If you found this system worth following, leave a like. And tell us, where are you watching from? Have you ever worked in aquaculture or seafood processing?